In this video, we're going to see the summation notation for midpoint Riemann sum, and then we're going to do a problem. The problem is find the notation for the sum of the function x minus 1 all squared from x equals minus 4 to x equals 4 with 4 sub-intervals. If you think you can do it, stop the video now, or after we do the explanation, or any way you want. If you think you can continue, and next verify we have the same result. Alright, so first the Riemann sum for midpoint will be, let's say we have this function, something like this, and this is B, this is A. The height will be the midpoint. So remember that for midpoint the formula is delta x times f of x 1 plus f of x 2 plus f of x 3, and we have done this in previous video. This is the height of, this is the area under the curve, so you can represent this as the summation of delta x times f of x sub I. Oh well, f of x sub 1, I put f of x sub 1, but usually we put f of x sub 0, f of x sub 1, f of x sub 2, or well, it will depend more on how we put it. Actually, we can put it as f of x sub 1.5, sub 0.5, f of x sub 1.5, sub 1, and f of x of 1.5, etc. Look, we have these rectangles. We have, let me do it in a way similar to this. Let's say we have 4 intervals. So with 4 intervals, 1, 2, 3. So here are the 4 intervals. So the height is going to be defined as f of the midpoint. This is the midpoint, so the height will be this. But the rectangle goes all the way like this. This is the first rectangle. The other will be, this is halfway. Let me do the halfway in yellow. This. So this is the next rectangle, and the next rectangle will be the height. So like this. And finally, the last one is here. This is the height, and so this is the rectangle. Alright. So this is the height is f of x, let's say of x sub 0.5, because x sub 0 will be this and x sub 1 will be this, so x sub 0.5, x sub 0.5 for example. This is the height of the first rectangle. Now, the next one will be f of x sub 1. This is the height, f of x sub 1. Next is f of x sub 1.5, etc. These are the heights, and f of x sub 2. This is the first term, the second term, the third term, and the fourth term. So we have what is if we begin from I equals 0. So when I is equal to 0, I is equal to 0, let me do it here, I is equal to 0. So in the first term, we are calculating x sub 1.5, f of x sub 1.5, but I'm concerning about the x. If you want, we erase the f's. So f of x of 0.5, x sub 0.5. This is the I equals 0 term. So here, what is x sub 0.5 first? Before seeing this, x sub 0.5 is equal to a plus this is delta x. So we will take delta x. Yeah, you could say delta x over 2. Next is a plus delta x, that is delta a plus delta x over 2 is here. The other one is a plus, actually it's a plus, is a plus delta x over 2, this plus delta x. The other one would be a plus delta x in order to be halfway, then plus delta x plus delta x. So plus 2 delta x. Alright, now how do we put it in terms of I? If I is equal to 0, if I is equal to 0, beginning from 0, this will be a plus delta x times I plus 0.5. Look, if I is equal to 0, in the first term, we have a plus 0 is half of delta x. In the next one, if we put here I equals 1, that is the second term beginning from I equals 0, this is our x sub 1, that is our second term. This is a plus, this is 1.5. So is a plus 1.5 delta x. And the third term is when I is equal to 2, is 2.5 times delta x. So it's a plus 2.5 delta x. So here, actually the formula goes the summation from I equals 0 to I equals n minus 1. We will see this in a while. Of, let me put it like this, f of x sub I delta x. Now, what is f of x sub I? F of x sub I here is this is x, and this is x sub I. So will be the summation from I equals 0 to n minus 1 of a plus delta x times I plus 0.5 times delta x. This will be the Riemann summation from the for the midpoint. Now, what happened if instead of beginning from I equals 0, we begin from before that, why we put n minus 1? Because if we have four intervals is 1, 2, 3, 4. The last one is x sub 2. So in the fourth term, we go from here. In the fourth term, in this example, I is equal to 3. So here we have a plus, sorry, I didn't do this one. Let me do this one. This was a plus delta x over 2 plus 3 delta x. Because a plus delta x is here, plus 1 delta x, 2 delta x, 3 delta x, so we are here. Now, so here we have a plus delta x plus I, in the fourth term, I is 3.5. So 3.5 delta x. So this is the formula for beginning with I equals 0. Now, if we want to move it the summation from I equals 1 to n. This would be now the first term, that is x sub 0.5, is I equals 1. Actually, let me correct this. This would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in the first term we have I equals 1. In the first term, we want that our x sub 0.5 be equals to a plus delta x over 2. How do we do this with a formula? We would need to put a of a plus delta x times I plus 1, 1.5. Sorry, minus 1.5. Yeah, let me check it. If we put 1 here, 1 minus 1 will be minus 0.5. Oh, let me see. Here we need that be a plus delta x over 2. So look, I minus 1, I plus or minus something, let me call it C, needs to be equal to 0.5. 0.5. So I will begin with I being 1, so C is equal to 0.5 minus 1, and C needs to be minus 0.5. So the formula is x sub I is equal to a plus delta x times I minus 0.5. Because if we are in the first term being I equals 1, we would have delta x times 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5, and so our x sub 1 will be a plus 0.5 delta x, that is here. The second term, that is when I is equal to 2, then we will have a plus 2 minus 0.5 is 1.5 delta x, 1.5 delta x. A plus 1.5 delta x. And the third term, that is when, this is x of 0.5, x sub 1, x sub 2. The third term is for x sub 1.5, and this is a plus delta x times 3 minus 0.5 is 2.5 delta x. And as you see, we are just adding 1 delta x. So this would be now the formula. This would be the summation from I equals 1 to n. We go to n because here that we have 4 intervals. The fourth term is x of 2, x sub 2. X sub 2 means when I is equal to 4. When I is equal to 4, we have a plus 4 minus 0.5 is 3.5 delta x. That is exactly what we have here. So is the summation from I equals 1 to n of f of x sub of a plus delta x times I minus 0.5 times delta x. Alright, so now we have it from I equals 0 to n minus 1, and from I equals 1 to n. Traditionally, we write it as being from I equals 0 to n minus 1, but we can do both of them. Now, quickly, this example, we have let's see first what is. Remember that the algorithm for finding the sigma notation is first step is we find what's the x. Next step we find x sub I. Third step f of x sub I. And fourth step the summation notation. This is the last one. So what's delta x? If we have from -4 to 4, we have this wide, well actually it goes from -4. This wide is 8. 4 minus -4 is 8 divided by 4 because we want 4 subintervals. So each rectangle measures 2 units. Alright, that is our delta x. Now, what's x sub I? If we're going to do the summation from I equals 0 to n minus 1 will be 3 of f of x sub I. So now what's x sub I? X sub I we saw was a plus I plus 0.5 times delta x. So here x sub I is equal to a is the one from we are beginning, that is -4 plus I plus 0.5 times delta x times 2. So x sub I is -4 plus 0, sorry, yes, 2. Actually, let me divide it in 10 subintervals. Oh, wait, okay. Alright, 4 intervals because I suppose that you already do the problems of 4 intervals, and then if you want, we change it to 10 intervals. So here, it would be I plus 2I plus 1. So x sub I is equal to -3 plus 2I. So f of x sub I is equal to, we plug this here, and so we have -3 minus 1 will be -4 plus 2I squared. And now we put the summation from I equals 0 to 3 of f of x sub I, that is -4 plus 2I squared times delta x, so times 2. Now if we put 10 subintervals, then our delta x will be -4 minus -4 is 8 over 10 is would be 0.8 or 0.8, and so x sub I will be -4 plus I plus 0.5 times 0.8, and this is x sub I equals to -4 plus 0.8 I plus 0.4. This is 0.8 I plus plus 3.6. F of x sub I will be 0.8 I plus 2.6 squared, and so the summation will be from I equals 0 to 3 of 0.8 I plus 2.6 squared times delta x, that is 0.8. Now this was simpler. Now how do we put this in the other form of summation? That is summation from I equals 1 to 4 of, now we have x sub I is equal to a plus I minus 0.5 times delta x. So x sub I is a plus I minus 0.5 times our delta x was 2. So x sub I is a plus 2I minus 1. Oh, sorry, a is minus 4. So x sub I is 2I minus 5. So f of x sub I is equal to 2I minus 6 squared. So here is 2I minus 6 squared times delta x, that is 2. And as you can see, we only move this. Here we move it. We have minus 4 plus 2i whole square, and now we have 2i minus 6. That is, we move 2 units because it was our delta x. So in the next video, we're going to do examples of kind of like this, but for left and right Riemann summation. But we already do the introduction for them in previous video, and we do the comparison, etc. But we left the midpoint alone, and so here we did the explanation, and now we put a problem.